Round 14 of the ADAC Formula 4 Championship is coming up here from the Nürburgring. Sunny skies once more on what has been a rather mixed day weather-wise. We've had sunshine, we've had pretty heavy rain that affected an earlier GT race. It's a bit blustery now, but the teams have made their way back out onto the grid. This is the second race of the day for them. It is the second of 3 over the weekend, and the first gave a 4th win of the year to Marvin Dienst. He is still 3rd in the championship, but he's a little bit closer now to Joey Mawson, who is the man 2nd. Championship still being led by Joel Eriksson, who was a little bit subdued in the first race. He was briefly 3rd, having worked his way past Lando Norris, and then he got mugged and lost the place again and faded away as the race wore on. Now, significantly, earlier on in the day, round 13 of the championship, the first round this year to run without a safety car. Each of the first 12 races had been affected by safety cars, and so now that the drivers have proved they can do this without bumping into each other, do we expect more of the same, or do we expect them to end up being a bit more cavalier? We'll see. The grid is being cleared. Any moment the cars will be released onto their warming up lap, and as the engines fire up, pole position is on the outside of the road, so look at the driver with the green top to his crash helmet. That is Jano Asmaier, who was on pole for race 1 and didn't make a great start and therefore lost out to his HTP junior teammate, Marvin Dienst. And he is the man who lines up on the inside of the front row of the grid, with Lando Norris, the British driver, being on the 2nd row, looking down the grid at Benjamin Mazatis, one of the many in the orange colours of ADAC Motorsport. The cars entered by the ADAC Berlin Brandenburg EV, but the grid is complete. We've had one driver withdraw from the race, in fact, which is 44 Glenn Rupp. The German driver missed race 1 after dramas yesterday, but has now withdrawn from the rest of the weekend. So disappointing. We are 1 car less compared to the entry. There is number 1, Kim Louis Schramm, driving for the Neuhauser racing team, and Schramm starting for this race on the 10th row, 19th on the grid. The way that qualifying worked out, the cars being released to get warmed into the Pirelli tyres, they were split into 2 groups. And the usual format, each group had a qualifying session, and then the faster driver, the faster group, took pole position, the rest of the group lining up behind the other group on the other side of the grid. And so that means that Jano Asmaier is on pole position with Marvin Dienst alongside him. The 2nd row, David Beckman alongside Lando Norris, both in the ADAC Motorsport colours. The 3rd row, Ralph Aaron lining up alongside Robert Schwarzman, ahead of Mick Schumacher, who will start 7th, and Marit Bachmann 8th. He crashed out of race 1, incidentally, after jumping the start as well. 9th on the grid, Joel Eriksson. 10th is Mike Ortman, who got damage in the first race after he clashed with Harry Newey. Joey Mawson lines up 11th on the grid, ahead of Camille Laliberti, the Canadian in for the first time this weekend. Row 7 is Tim Zimmerman and Giuliano Racci, ahead of Job van Uitert and Michael Waldherr, who will line up 16th on the grid. Then for 17th, it's Harry Newey, 18th, Benjamin Mazatis. Behind them, Kim Louis Schramm and Nico Rindlisbacher, who was another driver off the road in race 1. Then on the 11th row, it's Jan Jonk and Yanis Fitje, ahead of Jonathan Cecotto, and then Cedric Pirot will line up 24th on the grid in the Team Pirot sports car. The 13th row, Jason Kramer, is on the inside alongside Mauro Auricchio, and ahead, therefore, of Moritz Müller-Crepon and Giorgio Maggi, who will line up for 28th. 29th is Kari Schreiner, and 30th on the grid is Luca Engschler. The 16th row, Marilyn Niederhauser and Robin Brezina. And then the final 2 drivers, Michel Halber and Tony Wolff. Tony Wolff, having had damage in the first race, needed to pit before he could rejoin, and he did so a lap down. All of these cars are identical. They're Tatia's chassis. They have a 1400cc turbocharged Abarth engine, and they will run, of course, on Pirelli tyres. And some of the top teams across junior single-seater racing involved in this, the likes of Kramer, Van Amersfoort, Motor Park. Jensen has a good track record. We've got the HTP junior team, and further back on the grid, Team Scheider, Timo Scheider's team. Timo looking to the future as to when he doesn't race cars, what else can he do to maintain an involvement in the sport? And running a team has proved to be a good way of maintaining a business interest. The cars then making their way up towards the grid. We have Franz Engschler's team in the championship as well, or perhaps associated with touring cars. ADAC Motorsport is another top team, and there is Peter Mucker looking on as the grid now starts to take shape. It's going to be 30 minutes. That should be 21 laps. That's what they got to for the first race, barring any safety car periods. And Robin Brezina there making his way up towards the grid. 27, you can see, is Marvin Dienst, the race 1 winner. Well, Dienst managed to convert 2nd on the grid into the race lead earlier on. He made a very good getaway indeed. Can he do the same 2nd time around? The last car in place, the green flag will be shown now to say that everybody is back from the warming up lap, and so this, the 14th round of the ADAC Formula 4 Championship, is about to get underway now. The lights go out. One or two have made slow starts, and amongst them is Jano Eitzmeyer, as once again Marvin Deans pounces and grabs the race lead. Eitzmeyer moves across there and defends from Lando Norris on the run down towards the first corner. The three Mucker cars as one. Lando Norris just turns into the corner ahead, with then Beckman and Schwartzman trying to go with him as they work their way up through the Mercedes arena for the first time. Of those that were slow away, Marilyn Niederhauser was one, but she has got off the grid as the field works its way then up towards turn 3 for the first time. There was a lock up there. Lando Norris goes out wide, and that forced, I think, the car of Schwartzman off the road as well. Now Beckman is off the road. Norris has gone wide as well, and he's losing momentum. So it's the HTP cars getting away. Look at this great scrum for 4th place with Ralph Aaron in the middle of it in 99. He's in the Prema Power Team tricolor colours, coming out of it ahead. So that means he's 4th. Joel Eriksson, number 7, he's in 5th place, round the outside of Lando Norris. And both of them going a little bit wide there up onto the curb, and also getting into that mix. Number 5, you can see the Mucker car of David Beckman, who qualified well but has really lost out over the first few laps of the race, as now they work their way up towards the Ad Van Bogen for the first time. And exactly what has happened in the first race has happened again in the second, as in the top 2 have made a break on the opening lap. Everybody else tripping over themselves, squabbling lower down the order. Mick Schumacher, they're going into the NGK chicane, but the 2 leaders well clear of everybody else already, and there's drama at the chicane. Look, 2 in the middle of the road, cars off in avoidance, and another accident, one mounting the other there. First of all, 24 Robin Brezina has managed to park on top of Tony Wolff. In the middle of all of that, in number 13 is Cedric Pirot. There was another one escaping. This, I fear, could well be a safety car straight away. Robin Brezina's car is not going to go very far on its own, that's for sure. So we've had quite a few involved at the end of the lap, some delayed, but as the teams look on, the safety car is being deployed, yes. So I'm afraid after one clean race, they're back to their old tricks. Cedric Pirot has just come through with damage. Benjamin Mazatis, I think, was another one involved in that. Brezina we'd accounted for, and Tony Wolff also dramas on the first lap. So the safety car is deployed. That was good while it lasted. And so Marvin Dienst is the leader. In fairness to Jano Eitzmeyer, this race he's staying with him rather more easily than he was in the first race, and there you can see the reason for the safety car. Tony Wolff and Robin Brezina going no further. Brezina says give us a push, but it all triggered really further up the road. I think it was Schumacher that locked up, but this is the early to mid part of the field. Marek Botman in the blue car goes wide, and then one rattles over the curb. That was Job van Uitert. And then Tony Wolff got involved. No, sorry, Tony will lie. Pirot got involved with one of the Mucker cars, and behind, as they all brake, Brezina went into the back of Wolff. It was Benjamin Mazatis in the Mucker car that got attacked by Cedric Pirot, and then as they all concertinaed up under braking, that was the separate incident that put Brezina onto the back of Tony Wolff. And drivers look trying to push the cars out of the way, but the marshals nowhere to be seen until given the instruction, presumably by race control, staying on post. Because that, of course, at the end of a fast section is not where you want to be exposed trying to work on cars. So a shake of the head from Peter Mucker, and his frustration is palpable. So Benjamin Mazatis has had the good grace to move his own car out of the way. Still no marshals that we can see, but hopefully they're on the way because Brezina is still in his car. There's nobody there, is there? It's remarkable. The safety car is out, but as yet, nobody has gone to the aid of the drivers. So the 2 cars remain locked together. Cedric Pirot is continuing, despite the fact the nose of the car is half tucked underneath the front of it. So sooner or later, he's going to get a black and orange flag, I would have thought, to bring him into the pit lane. But for the moment, the safety car is on track, turning its way through the hairpin. And the race order is Marvin Dienst ahead of Jano Eitzmeyer in 2nd place, and Robert Schwartzman 3rd, 4th Ralph Aaron, 5th Joel Eriksson, 6th David Beckman, 7th Lando Norris, in 8th place Mick Schumacher, 9th Joey Mawson, and 10th Tim Zimmerman. So the mechanical warning meatball flag is being shown to Cedric Pirot and also to Camille Moreira Laliberte, who's been involved in a scrape somewhere. Laliberte, the Canadian driver, new to the championship this weekend. Finally, the recovery team is on hand, and so now the car of Robin Brezina can be extracted from the top of Tony Wolff's car. Benjamin Mazatis' car can be hopefully towed away by the recovery vehicle there. but Brezina's car will need lifting, so it's going to be at least one, maybe two more laps before the road is clear. It's not just getting the cars out of the way, it's also to have all the track vehicles out of harm's way. It's to get the marshals back on post. So now Robin Brezina is released from his car. Given the fact that it was a slow speed corner, the driver's thankfully not injured, but they will have to discuss that amongst themselves. A replay of the start, and once again Jano Asmaier just slow away. This time he's better at defending, moves right across and covers second place on the way down towards turn one. But again, Marvin Deans making a great start to bag the race lead for the first corner. Everybody else through safely, albeit on a variety of lines towards the back. The last car there, the black, red and yellow Marilyn Niederhauser, who was slow away from another angle. Marvin Deans covers the inside. The Mucker cars getting themselves perilously close together. Ralph Aaron on the outside line in the Prema car. And into the pits has come La Liberté, having been shown his mechanical warning flag, so Cedric Pirot will also have to pit as well, as we look at the back end of the field turning its way around the first corner on that first lap of the race. This was the hairpin. Joel Ericsson's white car was the one that locked up. I think it was here rather than that Lando Norris's race and started to unravel. Yes, because he got forced out wide, look, by Aaron. Up the inside went Ericsson, also up the inside went Beckman. As they came back into view, Lando Norris up the curb, that delayed him. So the pack pounced, and then a few others ran wide coming through the next sequence of corners at the Bilstein curve. So a lively first lap for some, even livelier for others. And we've got 23 minutes of the race to go. We're still behind the safety car as the field now works its way up towards the completion of another lap. This is the replay of the next part of the opening lap. The car's going up onto the curb, and there you see through on the inside goes Beckman against Lando Norris, who in turn keeps Schumacher and Jerry Mawson at bay. Safety car continuing to circulate. So that was how the leaders attacked the first few laps. It was behind them where it all went wrong, I'm afraid, with the incidents coming up towards the chicane. Have another look. So you've got Benjamin Mazitas clipping the curb and getting sideways and a half spin, and then Cedric Pirot, really with nowhere to go, ends up stopping and seeing it all ahead of him. Tony Wolff brakes and Robin Brezina just ploughs into the back, and others go onto the grass in avoidance and up the escape road. So broken suspension for Wolff, broken front nose section of the car for Brezina. So one incident really causing the other. And Benjamin Mazitas having pushed his car out of the way, safe and sound. Not actually that much damage to his car, but frustratingly, it's a retirement for him. So the safety car is on track. It's just in fact gone across the timing line. We've done 4 laps. Benjamin Mazitas doing his best to get that car off the curb. But even a fit, strong racing driver is no match for the weight of a Tatius when it's beached on the curbing. Not even with a bit of brute force. Try and get the wheel to turn, but even that didn't work, I'm afraid. So Mazitas in the end giving up on that job, and it's race over for him. So we're on to lap 5. There's Robin Brezina trudging away. Earplugs out. Balaclava back into the crash helmet, and behind him the pack arrives on the scene. Robin Brezina, one of the drivers, in fact Tony Wolff another, who run the cars as a small family team, not with one of the big powerhouses in Formula 4, but on a shoestring budget. Benjamin Mazitas doing his level best to get that car off the curb. In the end, the snatch vehicle came along to help him out, so it is out of harm's way, but it was well and truly stuck. Wheels not touching the belly, beached on top of the curb. Right, so we are 21 minutes and counting effectively, still to go. So there's not that much damage to Mazitas' car, which is a good news, but Mazitas out of the race. So as the field comes up towards the chicane, it's going to be interesting because you've got vehicles everywhere, and I think the safety car is going to have to bring them through the motorbike chicane. Yes, it is. So a different chicane on that lap for the purposes of safety, because otherwise there's just nothing to do. The track blocked. It's taken quite a long time to get Mazitas's car off the curb, but it is now safe. Mazitas's car being brought back to the pit lane. So the field through, and we've now done 5 laps. So what's that been? Effectively 4 laps under safety car, hasn't it? It's been a very long operation, that's strange. I think it seems to take a while to get all the vehicles in the right place. Joey Mawson has a look at his pit boards. He's currently running in 9 spots as the cars work their way through the Mercedes arena once again. So after 1 race in the championship without a safety car, I'm afraid they're back to their old tricks now. The next stop, incidentally, after tomorrow's race is the Sachsenring, which is an underused German circuit. It's fascinating to see how they adapt to that. Some of the drivers in this series have prior knowledge of single-seater racing. Either they've done other F4 equivalent championships or they've raced in the forerunner to it in Germany, the ADAC GT Masters championship. But for a number of drivers, this is their first year of car racing, moving up from karting. So past the marshals goes the field under the safety car. Adding to the pit lane, incidentally, Cedric Pirot with the damaged nose cone to the car. Coming towards us, Jason Kramer for Team Timo Scheider. Behind him is the Jensen car and Moritz Müller-Kreppel, among others. And we started with 34, we've now got 30 circulating. And there is Cedric Pirot, whose car needs a new nose cone. But are they going to put him back into the race? Well, it's worth it because it's mileage. I know it's cost, therefore, but it is mileage and it's gaining experience for the driver. With the car there of Tony Wolff out of the way, I think we should be good to go racing pretty soon. The way the race order is at the moment on the screen, Lando Norris, podium finisher in the first race. He's got a lot of work to do, but of course the field tightly bunched, so it's doable. The only downside to this is that safety cars breed safety cars, so it might be that with everybody all bunched up again, things get a bit leery on the restart. Let's see. Another lap ticked off by the safety car, though. So the field led by Marvin Dienst, ahead of Jana Esmeyer. In 3rd place, Robert Schwartzman. In 4th place, it's Ralph Aron. In 5th place, Joel Eriksson. Cedric Pirot out of the race. 6th is David Beckman. 7th, Lando Norris. 8th, Mick Schumacher. 9th, Joey Mawson. 10th, Tim Zimmerman. And the safety car is going to be in this time. And it's going to give us about, I would have thought, 15.5 minutes, really, of racing. By the time it's done this lap, the clock ticking away on the screen. The lap at the moment is a lap over 2 minutes, in fact. So the safety car will be in this time. It's out of the hairpin. Now with the sun shining and blue skies, total contrast from what we had 3 or 4 hours ago, and it was pretty heavy rain that made the GT race a real quandary for the teams, whether to go to wets or slicks and how to play it. Now you think it was a glorious summer's day. The sun is shining. It's approaching 5 o'clock local time. And with the safety car peeling in this time, really to give us, I suppose, half the race effectively. Then everyone bunching up behind Marvin Dienst, who has backed the pace right off. He'll slow them down, and then when he's ready, he'll power away. So the safety car is on its own. Jano Esmeyer and Robert Schwartzman are the 2 to watch here, because this is their opportunity to try to gain ground on the restart. Up to the chicane they come. And once Marvin Dienst commits to accelerating, he's got to keep accelerating. He can't go and slow. Up he comes then towards the chicane, race back on. The green flags fly on the start and finish line. We're racing again. And as the race leader Marvin Dienst emerges from the NGK chicane, he's not that far ahead of Jano Esmeyer, but Robert Schwartzman in 3rd place has dropped back a little bit as they work their way now up towards the Coca-Cola curve. There's a lock-up behind for 4th and 5th, where there's Aron versus Eriksson. Out go the pit boards. We are racing again with effectively 15 minutes and 40 seconds on the clock as they come over the timing line. The gap between the leaders is only half a second. Jano Esmeyer yet to win this year versus Marvin Dienst, who's had 4 victories. Down towards turn 1 they go. Behind them for 3rd place it's still Schwartzman, but round the outside tries to go Ralph Aron. You've got Joel Eriksson, the championship leader, running 5th, trying to get into that party as well, but he can't yet get past Aron. Restart lap then. Cars working their way through the Mercedes arena, and as they do so, Marvin Dienst is the man up front as the cars now wriggle their way out of the Mercedes arena and head down towards the hairpin, past the big grandstand there. But Jeannot Esmeyer in 28 with the green top to his crash helmet. He is the man going after the leader. What can Ericsson do about Ralph Aaron? Nothing, seemingly going down to the hairpin. And look at that, Joey Mawson around the outside of Mick Schumacher, absolutely wheel to wheel, but Schumacher comes out ahead, runs it up towards the curve. Joey Mawson thinks about a move on the inside going into the next section at the Bilstein S, the Bilstein curve. There's another driver being forced up onto the curb behind there as well, which I think possibly was Harry Newey. Yes, it was, 26. Another of the Van Amersfoort cars, that teammate to Mick Schumacher. So the leader, Marvin Dienst, gets away as they work their way now up towards the chicane. This is lap number 8. In real terms, only the second racing lap of the race, though. Any temperature they got in the rubber on the first lap has long since gone, so they've had to push on again on relatively cold tyres on this lap. And up towards the end of it now comes Marvin Dienst, as there, look, there's a challenge made up on the inside and gaining ground. 38, Luca Engschler moving up on the inside then, so good past that as the leaders come through. Half a second it was, 11 tenths it is. In other words, Marvin Dienst getting away from Esmeyer second, Schwarzman third. Good battle there, right up towards the pit wall, heading down now towards the first corner. Marek Bachmann trying to go around the outside of Joey Mawson. The Australian in the white car fends off Bachmann. Bachmann was in the barriers in the first race at this next section of circuit, but he's keeping out of trouble for the moment. Joey Mawson 9th, Marek Bachmann then in 10th spot. There's another fight going on behind as well as Tim Zimmerman sees in his mirrors there. The car, first of all, of Giuliano Racci, and then right up behind Racci, you've got Mike Ortman in the orange Booker Run car. Mike Ortman, another one with damage in race 1. But down they come to the hairpin, and Racci's going to lose the place there because up on the inside goes Ortman. He's got the tighter line. Is he level? Not quite. Good defensive driving that by Giuliano Racci. Round the outside, he stood his ground, came out ahead, so he's kept the place as they work their way now up once more through the Bilstein curve. Bjorn Van Houten there in 77. His car working its way towards the Ad Van Bogen, one of the probably racing cars. He was due for a season of 1.6 litre Formula Renault until that category fell on to hard times, so switched to Formula 4. And somebody else from a good racing family. His uncle used to be a very competitive Formula 4 racer in the UK in the 1980s. As there is a challenge made against Joel Eriksson. Up the inside goes David Beckman, and through he goes. And I think he caught Joel Eriksson napping there because the gap seemed to be a yawningly large one, and up the inside went Beckman, so he's come through in 5th place now. Joel Eriksson rather spurred into life as a result of that, comes back at him, wheel to wheel, down towards turn 1. They almost touch there. Beckman with a puff of tar smoke as he locks up, gets back ahead. He'll run out wide, and can Joel Eriksson come up and level with him? The answer is no. Eriksson doing his best here to not only attack Beckman, but also fend off Lando Norris, who battled with him in the first race. And Norris goes through up on the inside, or does he? He locks up, he's level, he's ahead. Lando Norris goes through, and now Eriksson comes under attack from Mick Schumacher, who's right there behind him, and a mistake by Eriksson forcing him offline means that Schumacher's got the gap on the inside down to the hairpin in the black and silver car. Can Schumacher go through? Yes, he can. Dives up the inside, goes wide. That forces Eriksson out wide as well, and Joey Mawson tries to buy into that but couldn't quite do it. More shuffling then lower down the order. Mick Schumacher through, and Eriksson goes defensive there to keep Joey Mawson at bay. Joel Eriksson's older brother Jimmy, one of the GP3 front runners, but Joel Eriksson not having a good weekend here at all. He's running, admittedly, better than some, but for a man that's had 5 race wins, he's never looked likely to really threaten for the podium here. And he's losing places, dropping down the order. He's now got Mawson and Bachmann not that far behind him as they work their way up out of the chicane. So we're about to complete lap number 10, and Marvin Dienst goes across the timing line now, having done 18 minutes and 40 seconds of the race, leading by 1.6 seconds over Jeannot Esmeyer. Then in 3rd place is Robert Schwarzman, in 4th is Ralph Aaron, in 5th place David Beckman, 6th Lando Norris, 7th Mick Schumacher, 8th Joel Eriksson, 9th Joey Mawson, and 10th Marek Bachmann. That's how they run, turning their way now down through the Mercedes arena. But Marvin Dienst has had a very good run. He won the last of the 3 races at the Lausitz Ring, which was the last time out for the championship. And he's won the first race here, and there Mawson attacking Eriksson up the inside. The blue and white car is Joey Mawson. The red and white livery is that of Joel Eriksson, who comes out ahead still. Working their way out of the Mercedes arena down to the hairpin. Eriksson is still under attack, but he's managing, I think, to hang on to the place there. He turns his way through the hairpin. Yes, he is. But Dienst has had 2 wins on the bounce then now, and it could be 3 in a row if he hangs on in there with an advantage of 1.6 seconds. It's looking good for him. Into the last third of the race now. chasing him. Jano Esmail has now had 3 second places. He's overdue a victory, but it's not going to come in this, I don't think, unless Marvin Dienst makes a mistake. And there, number 7, Joel Eriksson, the championship leader, but down as he is now in 8th place. If he carries on the rest of the season scoring not so well like this, and the likes of Marvin Dienst keep on racking up the points for podium finishes, then that advantage he built up before the midsummer break is going to disappear. They head down towards turn 1. It's a second and a half now between Dienst and Esmail. Robert Schwarzman runs 3rd, Ralph Aaron is 4th. The yellow car there in the background is Tim Zimmermann, and he has got Giuliano Racci and also Mike Ortman tucked up behind him, but Racci tries to go around the outside there. Is he going to be able to brake late enough? He brakes too late, and even wider goes Zimmermann, so that runs Racci off the circuit, and Ortman comes up. He's got past 1 in the orange car. He's on the outside line, can't get past Zimmermann. Racci comes back up on the inside, and through he goes. Giuliano Racci goes back ahead, but he's going to be on the outside for the next corner. So Ortman goes back ahead of him and hangs onto the place. This for 11th, 12th and 13th places. Out of the points, but a fierce fight nonetheless. Tim Zimmermann hangs onto the spot as they come down to the hairpin. Zimmermann has had a second place this year at the Red Bull Ring, but here having to work pretty hard to maintain position ahead of Mike Ortman. 8 3/4 minutes of the race to run now. As way up onto the curve there goes Giuliano Racci, just up ahead of him. Mike Ortman trying to get away as the cars power their way now towards the Ad Van Bogen once again. Through the chicane come the race leaders, and Marvin Dienst may not have been as quick as Esmail in qualifying, but he's getting away nicely in the races. The gap is 1.3 seconds, and more drama at the chicane. Involved in that, number 1 is Kim Lewis Cram, number 10 is Michael Waldherr, and that's, looking at the damage to Waldherr's car, is going to be another safety car period. Let's see. Kim Lewis Schramm is able to drive away from the scene of the crime. But what about Waldherr? His car looked like it had got damaged. Can he drag it off the road? Even if he can, it's going to need retrieval from somewhere. Now have a look at how it all went together. Up the inside of Giuliano Racci went Schramm, spun right into the path of Michael Waldherr. The safety car is deployed. Safety car is deployed. And so, yes, Giuliano Racci lucky to escape from that, because that was a little bit of a kamikaze move, dare one say, from Kim Lewis Schramm. And it's eliminated Michael Waldherr, who is absolutely furious because he was minding his own business and suddenly an errant car comes across the front. So Waldherr is out. That is our second safety car period. And given that we've got 7 minutes to go, and given how long it took to shift cars earlier, I know there's only one this time, but it may well be that we don't get many racing laps in at all. Waldherr is a little bit vulnerable there, sitting right in the middle of the road, beached. And of course the safety car hasn't scooped them up before that incident zone, so they've got to go through it before the safety car team is able to bring order to the race. So the Audi safety car on instruction will accelerate away. It has come out at the end of the pit straight, so they all have to go through the incident zone before they can get to the safety car, and straight away the weaving goes on to maintain the warmth in the tyres. So everybody again behind the safety car. It now averages out, doesn't it, for the day? No safety cars in race 1, but 2 in race 2. Down through the Mercedes arena they go then. So race order, it's not really changed too much. Marvin Dienst ahead of Jano Esmail. In 3rd place, Robert Schwarzman. In 4th place, Ralph Aaron. In 5th place is David Beckman. In 6th place, Lando Norris. In 7th place, Mick Schumacher. 8th, Joel Eriksson. 9th, Joey Mawson. And 10th, Marek Berkman. Mawson is the man second in the championship as you look at the crippled car of Michael Waldherr. But the fact that Mawson is 9th, even with Eriksson 8th as the championship leader, that's kind of good news for the Swede. It means that one of his key rivals is not being able to do much about taking points back from him within the title race. So the recovery team is on hand. And the cradle is going to be put around the roll hoop. Then the snatch vehicle can come to lift the car. Driver out, first of all. So 5.5 minutes. A lap under the safety car is about 2 minutes. There's certainly one more, and we're going to get many more racing laps in. Marvin Dienst having a very good day. He leads the way, but it looks as though he is on target for another victory, despite the fact, of course, they've all bunched up behind. So again, they're going to have to run them, I would have thought, through the motorbike chicane, the soft chicane, the easier chicane. Also the chicane they ran for the old-timer historic event that was here a week ago to take a bit less stress off the cars. So through the chicane they come. And they're frustrated. Michael Waldhaar, who had been running well up the order, but people do funny things ahead of you. There's not much you can do to avoid them. So he's out of the race and lives to fight another day, because there is race 3 tomorrow that will get underway at about 3:30 local time. Kim Lewis Schramm also, I think I'm right in saying, is out of the race. Yes, he triggered it, drove away from the scene of the crime, but didn't get very far. So, the cars go through. We've got 4 minutes to go. So even if the safety car comes in at the end of this lap, it'll be one racing lap. If it doesn't, it's going to take them to the checkered flags. So we could now be looking at the race result, depending on whether or not we can get the race live for one final lap. And the teams on the recovery operation, that is, doing their best to get everything sorted out as quickly as possible. So there is the crippled car of Michael Waldhaar being taken away. It's off the track, it's out of harm's way. I'm waiting for a message to come up to say safety car in this lap, but marshals need to be back on post. It is in this time, yes, message given, safety car is in this lap. So our second safety car period almost done. So get ready, we are going to go racing once again. It'll be one racing lap effectively. Or could they squeeze 2 out? Let's just see, because 3 minutes to go, a flying lap is 90 seconds. By the time they've done this, 2.5 minutes, yeah, they'll get 2 more laps. They'll get 2 more laps because of the race pace. So it's going to be a bit better than my first thought. Here they come, up towards the chicane. So the safety car is long gone. Marvin Dienst will accelerate away in a moment and then sprint away, he hopes, from Jano Esmeyer, who is given another opportunity, a third bite of the cherry, effectively. Can he do anything about Dienst? He's going to have to go now on his toes. Robert Schwarzman chases after them as they come through the chicane. Green flags are ready to fly as the field works its way now up towards the final corner. And it will be time enough for 2 more laps. They work their way up past the pits, but Dienst has done it again. He's just very, very good away from start, be them standing or rolling. Here he comes over the timing line. The green flag says it's race on. Down towards turn 1 they go. The leader is Marvin Dienst. In second place then it is Jano Esmeyer and Mick Schumacher. They're making a move to try to have a go at Lando Norris as they drop down towards turn 1. Norris on the inside of the orange car. Schumacher almost alongside. Out of the corner he comes. He couldn't get through. 2 dramas though in the background. A couple of cars have run wide and off the road. Kim Lewis Schramm has just dragged his car back into the pit lane, but who did we lose? We lost Giuliano Raucci, who's got damage and a punctured tyre by the look of it as well. So Raucci in number 62 limps round, but his race is as good as over because he'll lose so much time heading to the pits. He's out of it completely as now Mawson and Ericsson run side by side for 8th place down to the hairpin. Joey Mawson through on the outside. He's going to get sideways. Will he come out ahead? Not quite, but he's on the inside for the next corner into the next S. He's on the inside. He will take the place. Joey Mawson has done it at last. He's gone 8th. Down to 9th, Joel Ericsson. This is a race from hell for him. He's tumbling further and further and further down the order. And Joel Ericsson, I fear, could be on for his worst finish of the year here. He comes up towards the chicane, but he's a long way back relative to the 2 HTP junior teammates. There, again, attacking. On the outside is Joel Ericsson, but on the inside, Joey Mawson again. Hangs on to the place, and Ericsson's sideways and off the road. He's back on. Marek Berkman goes ahead of him as well. And Ericsson here, if he's not careful, is going to be outside the points, because now up to challenge comes Mike Ortman. Ericsson hangs on to the place on the inside, onto the last lap, has gone the race leader. Marvin Dienst then through, securing the advantage. Jano Esmeyer is half a second behind as they work their way now down towards turn 1. And Marek Berkman there challenging as well, look, as they come down to the approach to the Mercedes arena. Berkman is attacking Mawson. Way wide has gone Mike Ortman, so Joel Ericsson stays ahead of him for the moment, and now the cars work their way up around the Mercedes arena again. And as they do so, a challenge is made by Berkman against Mawson. And Mick Schumacher is under attack as well. Schumacher got Ralph Aaron behind him. Now that suggests that Ralph Aaron has had a moment, because he was fourth at the start of the lap. So there are the two race leaders. It is still Marvin Dienst ahead of Jano Esmeyer. Third is Schwartzman, fourth now is Beckman, fifth is Norris, sixth is Schumacher, and down to seventh, Ralph Aaron. So he has tripped himself up somewhere, fallen down the order, and the race leaders work their way up now towards the chicane. So it is Marvin Dienst who is set to win the race, seemingly. In second spot, Jano Esmeyer, who is doing his best to stay with him on this last lap, but I fear it is to no avail. Into the chicane for the last time. In third place, Schwartzman, fourth and fifth remain with Beckman ahead of Lando Norris, and Mick Schumacher speeding up towards the end. Mick has had a win this year, but it won't be a repeat here, I'm afraid. It's going to be sixth place at best as he comes now up towards the line. As to the checkered flag comes Marvin Dienst to win for the second time today and for the fifth time this year. Marvin Dienst is on the crest of a wave. Jano Esmeyer takes second place. Third goes the way of Robert Schwartzman. In fourth place, David Beckman. Lando Norris fifth. Sixth, Mick Schumacher. Seventh, Ralph Aaron. Eighth, Joey Mawson. Ninth, Marek Bergman. And 10th, Joel Eriksson. He will not be at all pleased with that. A driver who has been leading the championship. At the Red Bull Ring, he had a no score, and at the Lausitz Ring, he had a no score. So it's not quite as bad as it could have been, but at least he's in the points. Certainly not to the level that he wanted to be. He dropped out in the third race at the Red Bull Ring. And when the teams went to the Lausitz Ring and he had a bad result there, Joel Eriksson, that was by dint of finishing away down the order. But in that race, frustration because the speed just never really looked to be there for him. But for Marvin Dienst, what a day. 2 race victories, and that brings him, I would suggest, into contention for the championship now. If he hasn't already overhauled Joey Mawson, he won't be far off doing it. The race result, Marvin Dienst the winner from Jano Esmeyer. Third in the race, Robert Schwartzman, ahead of David Beckman and Lando Norris, with, in 6th place, Mick Schumacher. 7th going the way of Ralph Aaron. 8th, Joey Mawson. 9th, Marek Bergman, and 10th, Joel Eriksson. Then looking further down for 13th place, Harry Newey. He was a bit anonymous in that race, struggled to make progress really, didn't draw attention to himself in the way that he sometimes does. He can be quite a feisty racer, but we did lose quite a lot in the early skirmishes. A word about David Beckman, because he has also won the Rookie Award out of that, with Lando Norris and Mick Schumacher taking 2nd and 3rd places. So the top 2, the same again. Marvin Dienst, race winner, and Jano Esmeyer for 2nd spot, but this time for the podium, Robert Schwartzman, who's had 1 second place, but now 6 thirds. So he's no stranger to the podium, but he's not yet got onto that top step. But Marvin Dienst, very, very happy, very confident as well as he gets out of the car. The HTP Junior team victorious, and an affectionate pat onto the bodywork there to say thank you very much to the car for not missing a beat. Jano Esmeyer ruining again, and not so good start. 2nd place, he's far from a bad result, but just not quite being able to match the pace of Marvin Dienst, certainly off the line, and therefore compromises himself for the first few corners. Tomorrow there is one race for the ADAC Formula 4 Championship. It is the race with the grid based on the results of race 1 with a top 10 reversal, and that means that Tim Zimmerman will take pole from Mick Schumacher and Marvin Dienst will start 10th on the grid, so it's going to be fascinating to see what he can do from there in tomorrow's race. For now, though, the drivers being congratulated by the teams, HTP having a Formula 4 and a ADAC GT presence, running Bentleys. And this time around, it is Robert Schwartzman for 3rd place. So, in a sense, same team structure, an HTP Junior team 1-2 and a Muka driver for 3rd, but Robert Schwartzman taking over from Lando Norris. There is the Russian driver. Thumbs up. Watch them drive, and you think they've been racing cars for years. You see them out of the car, and you suddenly realise how young racing drivers are these days. Or is it commentators getting older? Either way, Robert Schwartzman has done a good job to take that 3rd place. He'll make his way shortly up towards the podium. And as he does so, the winning drivers are there for television interviews, and then they will be released and allowed up the steps to the race control building where the podium is. The championship, which is a regular partner category to the ADAC GT, has one away round in a sense, which is with the DTM. It will go to Ossersleben in September. The next stop for the teams will be the Sachsenring in 2 weeks' time. Then 2 weeks after that, Ossersleben, and then it will of course be part of the ADAC Championship Finals weekend at Hockenheim on the first weekend in October, where it'll also be joined by the Formula Renault 2-litre NEC, which is perhaps a category that one or two drivers may step up into, more powerful slicks and wings single-seaters. But it's been an extraordinary year for this championship. We've had some really good racing and some very, very competitive driving. Each race seems to throw up some new drivers that you hadn't really appreciated before. And this weekend, although Marvin Dienst has been on that top step of the podium previously, he's looked very strong indeed. So Marvin Dienst will shortly make his way to that top step for the second time today, and the drivers preparing themselves next for tomorrow's single race, and we'll see what drama that has in store. I suspect there's going to be plenty of it on the evidence of what we have had certainly in the second race today, and factor in as well tomorrow's weather. The forecast is for a day of rain. Now, that said, it was meant to be wet and foggy today, and it's only given us a little bit of rain relative to the amount of time we've been at the circuit, but it's not to suggest that tomorrow is going to trick the weather forecasters as well. So the ADAC officials take the drivers now up towards the podium, and having done so, then they will make their way out for the two ceremonies that we have, because of course the rookie drivers will have their own podium, but there is the trophy to be given while he's on the overall podium to David Beckman. Second and third rookies, Lando Norris and Mick Schumacher. That is the top three. And for Marvin Dienst, win number 5 then now. 2 having come at Ossersleben, 1 at Lausitzring, which I think I'm right in saying was the only venue that we've had 3 different winners thus far. Yes, that was the case. Marvin Dienst also, just to underline his speed, did the fastest lap of the race. And his time at 1 minute 28.1 was comparable to being on the front of the grid. So he's just looked the perfect driver, really, across the races. Fastest in his group in qualifying. And Marvin Dienst, we've not seen put a wheel wrong. He's not locked up. He's not clattered the curb. He's not looked ragged in any way. He has just been blindingly quick. And so for Marvin Dienst, the weekend gets better and better and better for him. The speed that he's got, plus the ability to push so hard on cold tyres so early in a race, is really impressive. And so, as everybody gets ready for the podium, very shortly the drivers will make their way out and the celebrations can begin. Tomorrow's race, as I say, is an afternoon race, so let's see what track conditions are going to be like then. It's effectively a couple of hours before today's race, so it'll be potentially a bit warmer. But Marvin Dienst, 17 laps done in that race, worries not. For now, Marvin Dienst has got 2 victories. It has been a perfect day so far for him. And can he do 3 in a weekend? He'd have to work his way up from 10th, but the amount of shuffling we've had in the order across the races suggests that you can do some overtaking if you're really brave, especially at the hairpin. And if it's wet and people make errors ahead of you, that could well play into your hands. So it's perfectly feasible that Marvin Dienst will make good enough progress up from there to score a very good result tomorrow.
Geh auf die 1. Doch, jetzt komm.
So the podium is ready. Camera crews are there. The television presentation team for German TV present and correct. And all we do now is wait for our winning drivers that will be there presently. And for Marvin Dienst, he can celebrate a little bit longer into the night because an afternoon race means he doesn't have to get up quite so early. How does a teenage racing driver celebrate after 2 victories in a day? So for some of the teams, there's quite a bit of repair work to do overnight. The 4 cars you see there, the 4th of them at the back, number 5, the orange car that you can see more of, that's David Beckman, who was the winning rookie. And the podium dignitaries getting themselves ready. The drivers will be, once they've gone through the post-race weight checks, whisked up the stairs through race control and then out onto the podium. Nürburgring, a busy venue, and with sports car racing coming here at the end of the month, this whets the fans' appetite to weekend of the ADAC GT Masters. But of course, without a Grand Prix in Germany anymore, starved of top-line single-seater racing, and so it's a chance to have a look at the young guns developing, and many of these drivers will of course be aspiring to be on a Formula 1 grid in a few years' time. Who is the next prodigy? Is it Marvin Dienst? Is it Joel Eriksson? You've got to say, after this weekend, it's not Eriksson, because he's just not really looked as combative as he should have done. But Marvin Dienst gets stronger and stronger as the season wears on. So, with the drivers now ready, I think, they'll be brought forward in a moment. For Marvin Dienst, a really good day. Friends, family, all delighted for him. Marvin, who's raced in the ADAC Formula Masters Championship. He's raced in the Formula BMW Talent Cup in the past as well. So putting the experience of single-seater racing to very good use, because it's win number 5 now. Is Ralf Schumacher, along with Hermann Tomczyk, to make the presentations. Marvin Dienst heads out onto the podium for the top step as a race winner for the 2nd time today. Jano Esmayer takes 2nd place. And then for 3rd place, Robert Schwarzman, to a traditionally noisy reception down below from the ADAC Motorsport team. And the winning rookie also steps forward, another of the ADAC Motorsport run drivers, and that is David Beckman, who says congratulations to the top 3 finishers. And the HTP Junior team will be represented on the podium as well as the winning team. And that therefore means that with everybody present and correct, now there will be the German national anthem. So, for the HTP Junior team and for Marvin Dienst, the German national anthem is played, and then Hermann Tomczyk, the sport president of the ADAC, steps forward to hand over the trophy to the race winner. And then Ralf Schumacher steps forward to give the trophy to the 2nd place driver, Jano Esmayer. And then for 3rd place at the other end of the podium will be Robert Schwarzman, who receives the trophy from Hermann Tomczyk. The junior winner, namely David Beckman, for his 4th place, will receive his trophy. The winning team gets the trophy as well. HTP Junior team, not only 2 out of 2 today, but 1-2 finishes for the drivers. It has been a stunning day for HTP and, of course, for Marvin Dienst. Ralf Schumacher hands over the junior trophy to David Beckman, and the drivers then will get together for photographs. Then they will be let loose with something fizzy to spray, but rest assured, not champagne. Well, one more race to come from the Nürburgring tomorrow. Can Marvin Dienst be the first man this year to make it 3 out of 3? Don't bet against him, but it should be another very competitive race. Join us for that if you can. It promises to be very lively. For now, from David Addison, bye-bye.
So haben wir unseren zweiten Wertungslauf der ADAC Formel 4 hier am Nürburgring gesehen. Marvin Dienst, Jan Westmeier, Robert Schwarzmann, David Beckmann als schnellster Rookie und die Mannschaft von ADAC Junior-Team. Meine Herren, ihr wisst, was hinter euch steht. Es ist der alkoholfreie Sekt und auf den dürft ihr euch jetzt stürzen. Zum Wohl.